If you found this video today, it's not by accident. You didn't stumble here by chance. You were guided. Because God wants to whisper something into your spirit. Your time has come. Right now, all across the world, souls are awakening. People who once felt lost, invisible, and forgotten are beginning to sense something stirring deep within. A divine pull, a silent voice saying, "You were made for more." If you've been feeling that quiet restlessness in your heart, if you've been walking through storms that seem to make no sense, listen closely, because what's happening is not the end. It's the activation of your destiny. Before we begin, if this message speaks to you, if you still believe that God has not given up on you, take a moment right now to like this video. Comment Amen below as a declaration of faith, and subscribe so you never miss the messages heaven is sending your way. Because what you're about to hear may be the very confirmation your soul has been praying for. This is the moment where everything begins to shift. This is the hour when the chosen ones rise. Take a deep breath. Open your heart. Because your destiny is being activated. Part 1. The moment of activation. When heaven calls your name. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when something deep inside begins to stir. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or lightning. It begins as a whisper, soft, persistent, almost impossible to ignore. It's the moment when heaven calls your name. For a long time, you might not have recognized that call. Life moved forward in its ordinary rhythm: work, responsibilities, distractions, noise. You followed the patterns the world told you to follow, hoping they would lead to peace. But somewhere in your heart, there was always that quiet ache, that sense that something was missing. You tried to fill it with achievement, with relationships, with comfort. Yet every time the same feeling would return: there must be more. That restlessness isn't a curse. It's the sign that your activation has begun. God uses longing as His first language. Before He changes your circumstances, He awakens your soul. And when your soul begins to stir, nothing around you will ever feel the same again. You might start noticing small things first, coincidences that aren't really coincidences. A verse that speaks directly to your situation. A stranger's kindness that feels too timely to be random. A dream that lingers in your mind long after you wake. It's as though the veil between heaven and earth begins to thin, and your spirit can finally hear what was always being spoken over you. This is not imagination, it's invitation. Heaven is inviting you to remember who you are. You are not simply someone who exists, you are someone who was sent. You were placed here in this exact moment of time, in this generation, for a reason that stretches far beyond what you can see. You were never meant to blend in, you were meant to awaken. And the reason life began to feel heavy, confusing, or even painful is because your old self could no longer carry the weight of the purpose that's waiting for you. The moment of activation is rarely gentle. When heaven calls your name, it shakes everything that is not aligned with your truth. It dismantles false identities, shatters illusions, and pulls you away from what no longer serves your growth. At first, it feels like loss. People drift away. Plans fall apart. Doors close that you thought would always stay open. But none of it is punishment. It's purification. The divine process is never about taking things from you. It's about removing what blocks the light within you. You cannot rise while still chained to what is beneath your calling. And so, the moment of activation often feels like chaos. But in truth, it's construction. Heaven is rebuilding you from the inside out. You may find yourself walking through what feels like a wilderness. Prayers seem unanswered, silence stretches longer than expected, and nothing makes sense. But this too is sacred. Every silence has a sound, every delay has a purpose. In the wilderness, distractions fall away and you begin to hear the one voice that truly matters, the voice of God. He speaks not to your ears but to your spirit. And when he says your name, it's not a sound, it's a knowing. Somewhere deep inside you recognize it. You remember that you've heard it before the noise, before the fear, before the pain. It's the same voice that spoke when you were still just a dream in the heart of God. And now it's calling you home to your purpose. This is the threshold of transformation, when the soul begins to awaken from spiritual sleep. The light you carry has always been there, but now it begins to burn brighter. You start to see patterns in your life that once confused you. You realize that every disappointment, every delay, every heartbreak was not wasted. They were all part of the design, instruments that shaped your faith, refined your strength, and carved space for divine wisdom to live inside you. When heaven calls your name, it's never just to comfort you, it's to commission you. You were not chosen to merely survive, you were chosen to bring light where there is none. Your story, your pain, your perseverance, all of it is a tool heaven intends to use to heal others. That's why the enemy tried so hard to break you. That's why you faced storms that few could understand. Because the brighter the purpose, the greater the pressure that precedes it. Activation is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. It's about returning to your divine identity, the version of you that fear cannot control and darkness cannot silence. And as this realization grows, you start walking differently. You stop begging for approval from the world and start listening for affirmation from heaven. You begin to measure success not by applause but by alignment. Not by what you achieve, but by how closely your life reflects God's truth. At this stage, everything around you begins to respond. Doors that were once locked suddenly open, not because you forced them, but because your frequency changed. When your inner world shifts, your outer world must follow. This is the law of divine resonance. When the soul vibrates in harmony with heaven, reality reorganizes itself to match that sound. It's as though heaven whispers, "Now you are ready. Ready to see, ready to move, ready to carry what has always been yours." Your gifts start to awaken. Empathy deepens, intuition sharpens, wisdom flows naturally. The same situations that used to frustrate you now teach you. The same pain that used to paralyze you now fuels your compassion. Because once you are activated, nothing is wasted anymore. You begin to notice beauty in places you once overlooked. You start feeling gratitude in moments that used to bring you fear. You sense God's hand not only in miracles but in ordinary moments, in sunlight through your window, in the rhythm of your breath, in the way life keeps gently calling you forward. This awareness is the foundation of awakening. You realize that the kingdom of heaven is not a distant place. It's a state of being right here, right now, within you. And yet, activation is not the end. It's only the beginning. Because when heaven calls your name, it's not just to bless you, it's to prepare you. God activates you so He can send you. He fills your heart so you can pour into others. He restores your faith so you can help restore someone else's. To be activated means to be entrusted. You are entrusted with light in a world that desperately needs it. You are entrusted with truth in a time when deception runs deep. You are entrusted with love that has the power to heal wounds words cannot touch. This is what it means to be one of the chosen ones. Not to be above others, but to be among them, carrying the divine within your ordinary days. So when the activation feels heavy, remember, you are not breaking down, you are breaking open. Every crack in your heart is a doorway for more light to enter. Every loss clears space for a higher form of abundance. Every delay teaches patience, which is the rhythm of trust. And trust is the bridge between your current self and your destined self. God never rushes the process because He knows transformation requires time. A seed must rest in darkness before it can bloom. Likewise, your soul must sit in stillness before it can carry revelation. So if you find yourself in a quiet season, don't mistake it for absence. Heaven is closer than ever. In the stillness, God is preparing you for visibility. In the hidden place, He is activating the power that will one day shine through you. Many people pray for destiny but resist the activation that leads to it. They want purpose without process, victory without vulnerability, light without refining fire. But true activation requires surrender. You cannot be filled if you are still holding on to what was. And so, the first act of faith is release, letting go of what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. When you release, grace rushes in. Grace doesn't just forgive, it transforms. It takes the fragments of your past and rearranges them into something sacred. It turns wounds into wisdom, pain into purpose, endings into evolution. And as grace flows through you, you begin to see life not as a series of random events, but as a carefully orchestrated dance between heaven and your soul. This is the sacred rhythm of activation, one step of faith at a time. Each act of obedience unlocks another level of awareness. Each moment of trust builds another layer of strength. Before long, you look back and realize how far you've come, not because everything changed, but because you did. And that's the secret of divine activation. The world around you shifts when the world within you awakens. The voice of fear grows quieter. The voice of faith becomes familiar. And for the first time, you no longer chase your destiny, you walk in it. Because you understand that the path was never outside of you, it was always inside, waiting to be remembered. So when heaven calls your name, answer. Even if your voice shakes, answer. Even if you don't know the next step, take the first one. Even if the road feels uncertain, trust the one who designed it. Because every yes you give, heaven echoes through eternity. You may not see the full picture yet, but you're not meant to. Faith is not about knowing, it's about trusting the one who does. And right now, that same divine voice is whispering again. You were made for this moment. The storms you've endured were not wasted. The tears you've cried were not forgotten. The waiting was not in vain. You were being prepared for a greater purpose, one that your soul agreed to long before you were born. This is your activation. This is the turning point where everything hidden within you begins to rise. Heaven has called your name, and the universe, in quiet reverence, waits for your reply. So take a breath, lift your head, and remember, you are not lost, you are being led. You are not behind, you are being aligned. You are not forgotten, you are being called. The moment of activation has begun. And from this point forward, nothing, not even the shadows of your past, can stop the light that has been awakened within you. Part 2, the purification phase, when everything falls apart to be made new. There comes a season in every soul's awakening when the very ground beneath your feet begins to tremble. Things you once trusted no longer hold. People you thought would walk with you forever begin to drift away. Plans you carefully built start to unravel. And though your mind cries out for stability, your spirit knows, this shaking is sacred. It is the phase that every chosen soul must pass through. The phase where everything familiar begins to dissolve, not as punishment but as preparation. Because before God elevates you, He purifies you. Before He reveals the next chapter, He cleanses the page. This is the purification phase, the divine dismantling of everything that no longer serves who you are becoming. And though it feels like loss, it is truly love. When God calls you higher, He cannot take with you the weight that once defined your lower self. You can't carry yesterday's identity into tomorrow's destiny. And so, heaven begins the process of separation, removing attachments, illusions, and patterns that once felt safe but have quietly become prisons. At first it feels cruel. Feels like your world is collapsing. But in truth, God is simply clearing the path. You see, the human heart clings to comfort. We hold on to what's known even when it limits us because the unknown feels terrifying. But God cannot fill hands that are already full. He cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. And so, He begins to take away. Not to punish you but to prepare you. Not to hurt you but to heal you in ways that comfort never could. This is why the purification phase often begins in disguise. You think you're losing control, but really, control is losing you. You think you're falling apart, but really, false foundations are being removed. You think you're being abandoned, but really, you're being aligned. Every ending that hurts carries within it the seed of a beginning that heals. And though you can't see it yet, this phase is sacred surgery. God is cutting away everything that is not truly you. The fear, the pride, the need for validation, the attachment to outcomes. He is refining your soul like gold in fire, removing the impurities that dim your light. Because gold only shines when it's melted. You will know you are in this phase when nothing seems to work the way it used to. Doors that once opened easily now stay closed. People who once understood you now feel distant. Things that once made you happy no longer satisfy your spirit. It's as if God has changed the language of your life, and only your soul can still understand it. You are being recalibrated, your energy, your focus, your desires, all being tuned to a higher frequency. It's painful because purification requires detachment. You must learn to release your grip on how you thought your life should go. And that's never easy. We all want to hold on to the familiar, even if it's broken, because it's known. But the unknown is where transformation happens. God cannot show you who you're meant to become if you keep clinging to who you were. So He lets the shaking come. He lets the storm rise. Not to destroy you, but to reveal what's unshakable within you. When everything external begins to crumble, you are forced to discover the foundation that never moves, the presence of God within you. It's in this sacred chaos that your faith is tested, not in the sense of proving it to God, but in realizing it for yourself. Faith is no longer a concept. It becomes the air you breathe. You stop saying, "I believe," and start living, "I trust." Because belief still depends on evidence, but trust exists even in silence. And that is what purification teaches. Trust in the unseen hand that is holding you through it all. This phase often feels lonely. People may not understand what you're going through. You might even question if God still hears you. The prayers that once brought instant comfort now echo back with silence. But silence is not absence. Silence is where God speaks most clearly. He's not ignoring you. He's inviting you to listen differently. In the quiet, you begin to hear the language of the Spirit, not words but awareness, not explanations but presence. You learn that peace doesn't come from answers, it comes from alignment. You begin to feel a strange sense of calm even while nothing makes sense. It's as if your soul knows what your mind has yet to understand, that everything falling apart is actually falling into place. Purification is not just external. It happens within. You begin to confront parts of yourself you didn't want to see. Old wounds resurface. Buried emotions demand release. Patterns of fear and self-sabotage come to light. It's uncomfortable, even painful, but this is the sacred cleansing of your heart. You cannot rise into your divine purpose while still carrying resentment, guilt, or shame. So God brings them to the surface. Not to shame you but to free you. Healing is not about forgetting the past, it's about releasing its grip on your present. When you forgive, you don't excuse what happened, you reclaim your power from it. You stop allowing the wound to define you. You stop living as a reaction to your pain and start living as a response to your purpose. And as you do, something miraculous happens. The very things that once broke you become the reason you're strong. The tears that once felt wasted become the rain that waters your new growth. The silence that once scared you becomes the sanctuary where you hear God the clearest. In this phase, humility becomes your teacher. You realize you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to control every outcome. You start to rest in the truth that God's plan is better than yours, even when you don't understand it. This surrender doesn't make you weak. it makes you unstoppable. Because nothing is more powerful than a soul that has surrendered to divine timing. Every spiritual transformation passes through fire. Moses faced the wilderness before reaching the promised land. Joseph endured betrayal and prison before stepping into destiny. Even Christ faced the cross before resurrection. Purification always precedes glory. And if you are walking through your own wilderness right now, remember, it's not punishment, it's passage. You are not being buried, you are being planted. And what feels like an ending is simply the soil of your becoming. As you walk through this phase, grace becomes your constant companion. It holds you when you can't hold yourself. It whispers when fear gets loud. It reminds you that even in the breaking, you are deeply loved. God doesn't purify what He plans to abandon. He purifies what He plans to use. And the more He intends to do through you, the deeper He refines you. That's why your fire feels hotter than others. That's why your tests seem harder, your path lonelier. Because your assignment is greater, and your foundation must be stronger. Eventually, you start to notice small signs of renewal. You wake up one morning and realize you're not as anxious as you used to be. You look at situations that once terrified you and feel peace instead. You begin to recognize that strength is not about controlling everything, but about standing firm in faith when everything feels out of control. This quiet confidence is the fruit of purification. You have been stripped of illusions but filled with truth. You have lost attachments but gained alignment. You have been emptied, but now you are ready to be filled, not with what you want, but with what you are truly meant for. The purification phase doesn't end with applause or clarity. It ends with stillness, a calm that comes from knowing that even though you don't have all the answers, you are exactly where you're meant to be. You no longer fear what's leaving because you trust what's coming. You no longer chase what's lost because you know what's real will always find you. You no longer pray from desperation, but from devotion. And in that sacred calm, you realize something profound. The very pain that once made you question God has become the proof of His presence. Because He never left you in the fire, He walked with you through it. He never turned away from your tears, He used them to cleanse your soul. He never broke your heart to destroy you, He broke it open to let more light in. This is the mystery of purification. It doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you've always been underneath the noise. It teaches you that endings are disguised beginnings, and that divine love is sometimes a fire, burning away everything false until only truth remains. When you emerge from this phase, you won't be the same person who entered it. You will carry a quiet strength that doesn't need to be proven. You will speak less but mean more. You will love deeper because you've learned how fragile hearts can be. You will trust slower but with greater faith. You will no longer need to chase purpose. You'll embody it. And as you look back on the ruins of what once was, you'll see beauty there. Because it was in those ruins that you found revelation. It was in the breaking that you discovered your belonging. It was in the loss that you found your Lord. This is the paradox of purification. Everything you thought you lost was never really yours, and everything that's truly yours could never be lost. In losing what was temporary, you found what's eternal. In letting go of what you thought you needed, you made space for what your soul was always meant to receive. So if you're standing in the middle of the storm right now, if everything feels like it's falling apart, don't run. Don't resist. Let the purification do its holy work. The pain will pass, but the purpose it creates will remain forever. The tears will dry, but the clarity they bring will change your life. You are not being undone, you are being remade. One day you will thank God for the very things you're praying to escape. Because you'll see what He was building all along, not comfort but character, not ease but endurance, not just a new season but a new you. And when that realization settles deep in your spirit, peace will return. The shaking will stop. The storm will calm. And in the quiet after the fire, you'll hear it, the gentle whisper of heaven saying, "Now you are ready. Ready to rise. Ready to rebuild. Ready to carry the light that has been purified within you." Because when everything falls apart to be made new, it's not the end of your story, it's the cleansing breath before resurrection. And from that moment forward, you will never again mistake breaking for failure. You will know it for what it truly is, the holy process of being made whole. Part 3: Rebirth in the Light. When your soul awakens, there comes a moment, often quiet, often unnoticed by the world, when the storm begins to calm. The chaos that once shook every corner of your being slowly starts to fade, and in its place something sacred begins to emerge. It is not the same you that entered the fire. It is a soul reborn, humbled, purified, and illuminated from within. This is the moment of awakening, the silent rebirth that only those who have walked through darkness can truly understand. You begin to see the world differently. What once looked like destruction now looks like divine design. The pain that nearly broke you reveals itself as a sculptor's hand, shaping your soul into something strong and true. Every tear you shed, every loss you endured, every unanswered prayer begins to make sense. Not because the pain was good, but because it was holy. It served a purpose far greater than comfort. It prepared you for light. When your soul awakens, it's not a single instant of glory. It's a slow unfolding, like dawn spreading across the horizon after a long and sleepless night. At first, it's just a glimmer, a faint whisper of peace that you can barely hold on to. Then it grows, gently but persistently, until your whole being begins to hum with the vibration of something eternal. You realize you are no longer the person who tried to control everything. You have learned to release, to trust, to flow with the current of divine will. In this stage, you notice how the external world seems to respond differently to you. The same situations that once triggered fear or anger now seem smaller, lighter, almost irrelevant. People sense a change in you. They may not understand it, but they feel it. Your presence becomes softer, yet somehow stronger. There is an ease in your energy, a quiet power that doesn't demand attention but naturally draws it. You are walking in the frequency of grace. Awakening is not about escaping pain or floating in bliss. It's about remembering who you were before fear took hold. It's the sacred recognition that the divine has been inside you all along. You begin to understand that God doesn't just visit you in miracles or revelations. He abides in your very breath, in the smallest details of your ordinary life. Every sunrise becomes a message. Every silence becomes a prayer. Every heartbeat becomes an echo of divine love. And yet, awakening also brings responsibility. Once your eyes have seen truth, you can never go back to sleep. You can no longer numb yourself with distractions or pretend that your life has no meaning. The light that entered you now seeks expression. It urges you to live authentically, to speak truth even when it trembles in your throat, to walk paths that your old self would never dare to tread. You start realizing that your purpose isn't to chase happiness. It's to embody light in a world that desperately needs it. At times, this rebirth feels gentle, but often it feels raw. Your soul, freshly awakened, becomes more sensitive to everything, both the beauty and the suffering of existence. You may feel deep compassion one moment and profound loneliness the next. This sensitivity isn't weakness. It's a sign that your heart is expanding. You are learning to feel the world the way God feels it, not with judgment but with infinite tenderness. You begin to see yourself and others not as broken, but as becoming. You understand that everyone is at a different stage of remembering who they are. You stop needing to be right, instead you seek to be kind. You stop rushing to fix everything. Instead, you learn to trust the divine timing of all things. This surrender isn't defeat, it's alignment. It's the knowing that the same intelligence that keeps the stars in motion is guiding every step of your journey. Rebirth in the light means you no longer fight your reflection. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop resenting what didn't work out. You start thanking God for the doors that closed, for the seasons that ended, for the people who walked away. Because now you see, everything that left was making room for what was meant to stay. The universe doesn't take from you to punish you. It rearranges your life so that you can finally receive what is truly yours. As the light grows within you, you notice a shift in your desires. The things that once obsessed you, recognition, approval, control, begin to lose their grip. You crave simplicity, authentic connection. You find joy in the smallest blessings, a quiet morning, a genuine smile, a deep conversation. You begin to live slower, deeper, more intentionally. You understand that the miracle was never waiting somewhere in the future. It was here, hidden in the present moment all along. There's also a sacred loneliness that accompanies awakening. The old world feels too small, and the new one hasn't fully arrived yet. You stand between dimensions, no longer who you were, not yet who you are becoming. But in that in-between space, something extraordinary happens. You meet yourself, not the version molded by expectation, but the eternal soul who has been patiently waiting beneath the noise. You begin to love that self unconditionally, perhaps for the first time. And as you do, the light grows even brighter. You begin to attract what resonates with your higher truth, people, opportunities, and insights that reflect your new vibration. Life stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a dance. You still face challenges, but now you see them as invitations, each one a mirror showing you where more love is needed. You no longer pray for easy days. You pray for clarity, strength, and grace to face whatever comes. This awakening also changes your relationship with God. He is no longer distant or abstract. You begin to experience His presence as something intimate, alive, and deeply personal. You talk to Him in your thoughts, you feel Him in your tears, and you recognize Him in the eyes of strangers. The idea of separation dissolves. You understand that the divine is not something to reach for, it's something to remember. It's been inside you whispering all along. When the soul awakens, gratitude becomes your natural language. You start thanking God for things you used to complain about. You find beauty in imperfection, meaning in delay, and peace in uncertainty. You realize that everything is working together for your good, even the things that once broke you. That's the mystery of grace. It transforms wounds into wisdom and loss into light. Slowly, a new rhythm begins to guide your life. You live less from reaction and more from revelation. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with purpose. You listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the still, small voice within. It tells you when to move and when to rest, when to speak and when to be silent. It teaches you that timing is sacred, that every moment carries divine instruction if you are willing to be present enough to hear it. And one day you'll realize that you no longer fear the dark. You've walked through it and it did not destroy you. In fact, it became the womb of your rebirth. You now understand that darkness is not the absence of light. It's the space where light is born. You have learned to carry your own flame, and that makes you unstoppable. The night no longer frightens you because you have become the dawn. Rebirth in the light does not mean perfection. It means transformation. You still stumble, still feel doubt, still face moments of weakness, but now you rise differently. You rise with awareness, with compassion, with trust. You rise knowing that God's grace is not earned, it's embraced. You rise because the light within you cannot be extinguished, it's eternal. And as your soul fully awakens, you realize that the true purpose of life is not to escape the human experience, but to sanctify it, to bring heaven into earth through your thoughts, your words, and your actions. You are not here merely to survive, you are here to shine, to be a living testimony of divine transformation, to remind others, through your very presence, that hope is real and that light always wins. So as you stand in this new awareness, take a moment to honor your journey. Every scar is sacred. Every tear is a prayer. Every failure is a lesson. You have not lost time. You have gained wisdom. You have not been abandoned. You have been prepared. You have not been forgotten. You have been chosen. Your soul has awakened, and in that awakening the universe rejoices. Heaven leans close. The angels sing softly, you made it through the fire. Now walk in the light. And from this moment forward you do. You walk with humility, with gratitude, with peace. You walk as someone who remembers that even when everything falls apart, God is still building something beautiful within. Because when the soul awakens, it doesn't just find the light, it becomes it. And once that happens, nothing in this world will ever be the same again. Part 4, the final step, activating the mission. There comes a sacred moment in every awakened soul's journey when reflection must turn into movement, and understanding must become embodiment. This is the final step, the activation of the mission. It is not about adding something new to yourself, but allowing what has always been within you to finally rise to the surface. Everything that has happened up to this point, the pain, the silence, the stripping away, the rebirth, has been preparation. The universe has been aligning you, testing you, refining you for this one truth. Your light is not meant to stay hidden. You were not awakened just to feel peace. You were awakened to carry peace into a world that has forgotten how to breathe. You were not healed only to enjoy healing. You were healed so that your presence could become medicine for others. God's purpose for you was never small. The mission He placed in your spirit is vast, holy, and deeply personal. But it begins only when you say yes, when you finally stop waiting for a perfect sign and start walking in faith. The final step feels different from all the others because it requires action rooted in surrender. It's not about forcing outcomes or chasing recognition. It's about aligning your daily life with divine purpose. It's a quiet courage, the kind that doesn't shout but simply chooses to show up, day after day, with love, integrity, and conviction. When you step into your mission, you stop asking, "What do I want to do?" and start asking, "What is God asking of me right now?" At first, this can feel overwhelming. You might doubt yourself. You might hear whispers of fear telling you that you are not ready, not qualified, not holy enough to carry this light. But remember, God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Every weakness you think disqualifies you is actually the very space where His power will shine through. The mission is not about perfection, it's about availability. It's about saying, "Use me, Lord," and meaning it even when you don't know where the road will lead. The activation of your mission often begins in silence. There won't always be applause, validation, or certainty. You will take the first steps alone, guided only by intuition, that sacred whisper that has never truly left you. You'll find that the more you walk in obedience, the more the path reveals itself. Doors will open that logic could never explain. People will appear at the exact moment you need them. Synchronicities will confirm that you are no longer moving by your own strength. The divine is now steering your steps. Your mission might not look grand in the eyes of the world. It might not be a stage, a spotlight, or a platform. It might simply be kindness, the kind that changes someone's day. It might be forgiveness, the kind that breaks generational cycles of pain. It might be creativity, teaching, nurturing, healing, praying, writing, building, or simply listening with compassion. The form does not matter. What matters is the intention. Your mission is where your soul's joy meets humanity's need. The final step requires a shedding of ego. You cannot serve both the mission and the illusion of control. You cannot walk in divine flow while clinging to the need for recognition. When you step fully into purpose, you no longer strive to be seen. You simply allow yourself to be a vessel. You understand that the light moving through you does not belong to you. It belongs to the source that created you. Your role is not to own it, but to let it pass through unfiltered and unrestrained. There will be moments when you feel weary. Living your mission is not always easy. It demands consistency, compassion, and courage even when no one is watching. But every time you feel empty, remember, you are never alone in this. The same God who called you into purpose will sustain you within it. Divine energy does not run out, it flows. The more you pour into others, the more heaven pours into you. That is the mystery of the mission. It expands the more you give it away. As your mission unfolds, you'll notice a shift in your inner world. The things that used to trouble you lose their grip. You become less reactive, more centered. You stop measuring success by outcomes and start measuring it by obedience. You realize that even when the world misunderstands you, heaven applauds your faithfulness. You begin to feel peace not because everything is perfect, but because you know you're walking exactly where you're meant to be. You'll also start to notice how your light affects others. People around you might not be able to explain it, but they'll feel calmer in your presence. They'll feel seen, understood, safe. That's because the energy you carry has changed. It's not just yours anymore. It's infused with divine frequency. You've become a mirror, reflecting the truth that everyone else has forgotten. They too are divine in origin, chosen for something greater than fear or routine. Sometimes, fulfilling your mission will require walking away from familiar places. The final step is rarely comfortable. God will often ask you to leave behind what's safe so that you can step into what's sacred. You might lose people who don't understand the transformation you've undergone. You might have to let go of dreams that no longer align with your calling. But what you lose in comfort, you gain in clarity. What you release in the physical, you reclaim in the spiritual. The more you trust the process, the lighter you become. There will come a day when you look back and realize that every delay, every detour, every heartbreak was part of the activation sequence. None of it was random. The pain refined you, the silence strengthened you, the waiting prepared you. Every season that felt like stagnation was actually sacred incubation. Heaven was building endurance in you, molding your character, and expanding your capacity for light. You could not have arrived here any sooner. You needed to grow into the vessel that could carry what you now hold. The final step also asks for humility. The mission is not about elevating yourself, but about elevating consciousness. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you stop evolving. To walk in divine purpose is to remain a lifelong student, always listening, always learning, always surrendering. You realize that wisdom flows not from control but from communion, from the ongoing relationship between your soul and the divine intelligence guiding it. At this stage, faith becomes your compass. You no longer need every answer. You no longer panic when plans change. You understand that divine timing is not delay, it is design. Every no becomes a redirection toward a greater yes. Every closed door becomes a protection you didn't see coming. You begin to live in partnership with grace, knowing that even your missteps are woven into the tapestry of purpose. Nothing is wasted. Everything is working together for the mission. When your mission is activated, you begin to carry yourself differently. Your presence becomes prayer. Your words carry weight. Your actions ripple outward in ways you may never fully see. You start noticing miracles not as rare events but as daily confirmations that heaven is near. You realize that the divine doesn't just work through grand gestures. It moves quietly through the smallest acts of love. Every smile, every act of forgiveness, every moment of truth spoken in kindness becomes a thread in the great design of redemption. And perhaps the most beautiful part of the mission is this: it never truly ends. It evolves. As you grow, it grows. As you ascend, it deepens. There will always be new layers of service, new dimensions of grace, new opportunities to embody love. You'll learn to stop asking, "What's next?" and instead say, "What now, Lord?" Because you understand that purpose is not a destination, it's a way of being. You are no longer chasing meaning, you are living it. In time, you'll see how your obedience changes the lives of others. The person you forgave finds peace. The word you spoke gives someone hope. The kindness you showed becomes a seed of transformation. You might never see the full impact of your mission, but heaven keeps record. Every act of love echoes in eternity. And that is what it means to walk in divine purpose, to live as if every heartbeat is an offering. So when doubt returns, and it will, remember this truth: you were chosen for a reason. You carry light for a reason. Every trial you've overcome was proof of that calling. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present, awake, and willing. The mission is not waiting somewhere far away. It's already unfolding in the way you choose to live, speak, and love today. As you take this final step, stand tall in the knowledge that heaven walks beside you. The angels go before you. The Spirit lives within you. You are the vessel, the messenger, the living expression of divine love. And even when the path feels uncertain, the destination is sure, because the one who began this work in you will be faithful to complete it. This is the activation. This is the awakening fulfilled. This is the moment your life stops being about survival and becomes about service. You are the light sent into darkness, the voice called to speak truth, the heart chosen to carry hope. Walk boldly now, not because you know where you're going, but because you know who is guiding you. The mission has begun. And from this day forward, may your life itself become the sermon, silent, radiant, unstoppable, a living testament that when God activates destiny, no force on earth can silence it. Part 5: Living in the Mission, the Light of the Chosen Ones. There is a sacred stillness that follows the moment of activation, a quiet knowing that you are no longer the same. The storms that once terrified you have passed, and in their wake stands someone transformed. You have crossed through fire and emerged radiant. You have walked through shadows and discovered your own light. Now you stand in the place where destiny meets devotion, the space where your life itself becomes your offering. This is what it means to live in your mission. Living in the mission is not about grand gestures or perfect days. It's about embodying purpose in the ordinary rhythm of life, in the way you wake up, speak, give, listen, and love. It's when you begin to understand that spirituality is not something you do, it's who you are. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every action, a reflection of grace. You move differently, not because you're trying to impress heaven, but because heaven is now alive within you. At this stage, the light within you is no longer fragile. It has matured. It doesn't flicker with every gust of fear or doubt. It stands steady, grounded in divine truth. You no longer need external validation to know your worth. The applause of the world no longer tempts you, and its criticism no longer wounds you. You have learned to listen to one voice, the voice of spirit that whispers, "Keep walking, child. I am with you." Living in your mission means carrying the peace of God into every space you enter. You no longer fight darkness, you illuminate it. You don't seek revenge, you seek understanding. You no longer rush to change people. You choose to love them where they are, knowing that love itself is the most powerful form of transformation. You become a living sermon, not through words but through your presence. People feel something shift around you, though they may not be able to name it. They feel safe, seen, and remembered. That is the light of a chosen one. But this path is not without challenge. The higher you rise in consciousness, the subtler the tests become. You will still face moments of doubt, times when you wonder if your light is making a difference, or when your heart grows weary from carrying compassion in a world that often resists it. Yet in those moments, you will also remember, strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the grace to remain open-hearted in the midst of it. The light of the chosen is not untouchable, it is resilient. It shines even with tears in its eyes. You learn to live from the center, that quiet, sacred space within where peace never leaves. You stop reacting to the noise of the world. You listen deeper, love slower, speak softer. Your actions become deliberate, your choices guided not by fear but by faith. You begin to see how your very existence ripples outward, how your patience heals, your laughter uplifts, your forgiveness frees others from invisible chains. Living in the mission is realizing that everything you do, no matter how small, carries divine consequence. There is a humility that defines the chosen ones who live in the light. They do not boast of their calling. They serve quietly, faithfully, often unseen. They understand that light doesn't compete with darkness. It transforms it. You become less concerned with recognition and more concerned with resonance. You start asking not how much can I achieve, but how deeply can I love? The deeper you love, the more the universe aligns around you. As you continue walking in this light, you'll begin to notice that your relationship with time changes. You stop rushing. You stop trying to make things happen before they're meant to. You start trusting that divine timing is perfect, that every delay is protection, and every detour is guidance. You realize that living in mission is not about constant doing, it's about being. Being attuned, being present, being available for whatever the divine asks in each moment. There is a certain freedom that comes when you no longer need control. You begin to live as a flow, not a formula. You allow life to move through you rather than trying to push against it. You see miracles not as interruptions of the natural order but as its very essence. You recognize that you are part of a divine choreography far greater than anything your mind could plan. The pressure to prove yourself dissolves because you finally understand you were never competing, only creating. As you live in your mission, relationships evolve too. You attract souls who resonate with your light, people who challenge you to grow, who see you without judgment, who remind you that the path is not meant to be walked alone. Together, you form constellations of light, each shining uniquely but connected by purpose. The chosen ones do not isolate, they illuminate together. And in that unity, the world begins to heal. Your sense of purpose also deepens. What once felt like an assignment now feels like identity. You realize that you are not doing your mission, you are becoming it. Service is no longer a task. It's your natural expression. Whether you are speaking to thousands or comforting one person in silence, the intention is the same: to bring light where there is shadow, to bring love where there is lack. You find joy not in what you receive but in what you give. Yet there will be seasons of quiet, times when it seems as if nothing is happening, when the world feels distant and heaven silent. These moments are not punishment. They are recalibration. Even light must rest. Even purpose must pause. It's in those sacred pauses that God refills your spirit, reminding you that your worth lies not in your work, but in your being. When you emerge again, you shine brighter, softer, truer. Living in your mission means carrying gratitude as your compass. You wake up each day thankful, not because everything is perfect, but because you are present. You've learned that gratitude turns even ordinary moments into holy ground. You begin to thank God for lessons instead of resenting them, for endings instead of fearing them, for the unknown instead of avoiding it. Gratitude opens your heart wider, allowing more light to flow through you. In this stage, your prayer life changes too. You no longer pray only for outcomes. You pray for alignment. Instead of asking God to remove your challenges, you ask Him to reveal their purpose. Instead of seeking escape, you seek understanding. Your prayers become conversations, intimate, honest, raw. You realize that prayer is not about convincing heaven to act. It's about remembering that heaven already dwells within you. The light of the chosen ones is steady and selfless. It doesn't seek attention, yet it cannot be ignored. It moves through kindness, patience, and quiet strength. It manifests in how you forgive quickly, how you refuse to give up on hope, how you keep showing up even when no one sees the effort. This is what separates those who speak of light from those who live it. To live in your mission is to embody God's love so deeply that your very presence becomes evidence of His goodness. You begin to see that your mission is not confined to moments of success. It continues through moments of hardship too. Sometimes the most powerful witness of your light is not in how you shine, but in how you endure. The way you keep faith when things fall apart becomes a beacon to others who have lost their way. Your scars become stories of grace. Your perseverance becomes a sermon without words. Over time, you notice that fear has less power over you. You no longer tremble before uncertainty because you've seen how every unknown eventually reveals its purpose. You no longer cling to control because you trust the one who orchestrates it all. Living in your mission gives you a kind of peace that can't be shaken, a peace that whispers, "Even if I don't understand now, it is well with my soul." As the light of a chosen one matures, it starts to transcend the self entirely. Your life becomes about legacy, not the kind written in books but the kind engraved in hearts. You start asking, how can my presence leave others better? You plant seeds of faith you may never see bloom. You invest love in people who may never thank you. You forgive without expectation. You serve without reward. This is divine maturity, the moment when love itself becomes your reason for living. You will find yourself smiling more often even without reason. You will notice beauty where you once saw burden. You will sense the presence of God in laughter, in music, in the wind, in silence. The world, once harsh and heavy, will begin to feel like sacred ground, because you have become attuned to its divine rhythm. Everything becomes worship. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step you take carries the vibration of thank you. Eventually, you realize that being chosen was never about being superior, it was about being surrendered. It was never about being elevated above others, but about being willing to kneel, to serve, to love without measure. The light of the chosen one is humble, not because it hides, but because it knows that all glory belongs to the source. You are not the flame, you are the candle through which the flame burns. And so you live gently. You walk kindly. You love deeply. You forgive endlessly. You shine naturally. Every day becomes another opportunity to reflect the divine image that created you. You no longer seek the kingdom, you carry it. You no longer chase destiny, you embody it. You no longer wait for the light, you are it. The world still turns in chaos, but you stand anchored in peace. Darkness still rises, but it no longer frightens you, because you've learned that one spark of faith can outshine an ocean of fear. You understand now, this is what it means to live as the chosen, not to escape the world but to transform it through love. So walk on. Speak truth. Lift others. Be kind. Keep your heart open. Let your life become a sanctuary where others remember their own divinity. You have been called not just to witness light, but to be it, to walk as a reflection of heaven in a world desperate for hope. This is the fullness of your mission, not a role you perform but a life you embody. And as you live it, every breath, every step, every heartbeat becomes a whisper of eternity saying, "Well done, my child. You have become the light I sent you to be." And in that moment you will know, you are home. You are whole. You are the light of the chosen ones, forever shining, forever becoming, forever one with the divine.